There's something remarkable about zebras. Their striped coats make them instantly familiar. Yet almost every part of their story becomes more surprising the closer we look. Whether you have returned tonight or are finding this channel for the first time, this is a quiet place to slow down, learn something gentle, and let the day begin to loosen its grip. Tonight, we are spending time with zebras. At first glance, the puzzle seems simple. A zebra has a mane, a long face, strong legs, grinding teeth, and a single hoof at the end of each limb. Place one beside a horse, and the family resemblance is obvious. So why did humans breed horses for riding, farming, travel, war, and sport, while zebras remained wild? The answer is not that a zebra can never learn. Individual zebras have been trained to accept a harness, pull a carriage, and even carry a rider. During the late 19th century, the British zoologist Walter Rothschild became famous for using trained zebras to pull a carriage in Britain. Those animals had learned a task, but they had not become domesticated. A tame animal has changed during its own lifetime. A domesticated animal belongs to a population changed across many generations. Humans choose which animals reproduce, often favoring those that are calmer, easier to handle, less likely to panic, and more willing to live and breed near people. Over hundreds or thousands of years, those choices can alter behavior, body size, coat color, growth, and even the timing of reproduction. No zebra population ever crossed that full threshold. The missing domestic zebra was not caused by one simple flaw. Zebras evolved in African landscapes filled with large predators, seasonal drought, biting flies, long migrations, and sudden danger. A fast reaction could save a life. A strong bite or kick could stop an attacker. A deep need to stay close to other zebras could make capture and confinement far more stressful. Those traits were useful in the wild, even when they made human control difficult. There was also a practical problem. Domestication requires more than catching an animal and teaching it to stand still. People must control breeding, protect pregnant females, raise young near humans, keep adults from injuring handlers, and repeat the process for generation after generation. That takes land, food, time, and a strong reason to continue. By the time many societies had regular contact with zebras, people already had horses, donkeys, cattle, oxen, and camels performing most of the useful jobs a zebra might have filled. The zebra therefore faced a different history from the horse. It was not simply overlooked. Its biology raised the cost, while other animals lowered the reward. There are also 3 living zebra species, each shaped by a different part of Africa. The plains zebra is the most widespread and often forms stable family groups across eastern and southern grasslands. The mountain zebra lives in dry, rocky country in Namibia and South Africa. Grevy's zebra, the largest living wild member of the horse family, survives mainly in northern Kenya and parts of Ethiopia. Its tall body, narrow stripes, and large rounded ears suit a harsher, more open landscape. These are not unfinished horses wearing unusual coats. They are distinct animals with their own anatomy, social rules, feeding systems, and survival strategies. The closer we look, the clearer the real answer becomes. Humans could sometimes train a zebra. What never happened was the long chain of controlled breeding that would have turned wild zebra behavior into something inherited, predictable, and useful to people. To understand why, we have to begin with the difference between changing one animal and changing an entire lineage. A zebra that learns to stand calmly in a harness has changed through experience. Its brain has formed new connections between the handler, the equipment, and the reward that follows cooperation. A foal born to that zebra would not arrive already understanding reins, carriage shafts, or spoken commands. The training belongs to the parent's lifetime. Taming works in this personal way. Repeated contact can reduce fear around a familiar person. Food rewards can encourage an animal to approach, remain still, or repeat a useful action. Young animals raised near humans may also accept touch and confinement more readily than adults captured from the wild. These changes can be powerful. A tame animal may follow instructions, tolerate grooming, and allow a person to lead it through a gate. Its inherited biology may still remain almost identical to that of the wild population from which it came. Even birth in captivity does not automatically change that fact. A zebra born inside a fenced reserve is captive-born. Unless its parents came from a lineage shaped through many generations of human-controlled breeding, it is still a wild animal in biological terms. Domestication works on a much larger scale. Humans decide which animals are allowed to reproduce. Calmer individuals may be chosen more often than highly reactive ones. Animals that breed reliably near people may leave more offspring than those that stop reproducing under stress. Bodies that suit a human purpose can also become more common, whether that means stronger shoulders, finer wool, larger eggs, or greater milk production. The inherited instructions involved are carried in genes. Different versions of a gene are called alleles. When people repeatedly favor certain animals as parents, the useful alleles they carry can become more common in the population. Biologists call this a change in allele frequency. Learning changes connections inside one nervous system. Selection changes the inherited makeup of many future animals. Those population changes can eventually affect the way an animal reacts to danger, the season in which it reproduces, and the closeness it tolerates from others. Domestication has also altered coat colors, horn size, body proportions, and dependence on human care. Domestic sheep can produce far more wool than their wild relatives could comfortably maintain without shearing. Many chicken breeds lay eggs far more often than their ancestors in southern Asia. Some dog breeds differ enormously in size, even though they all belong to the same domestic species. No single pattern applies to every animal. Dogs entered human society through a different route from cattle. Sheep were shaped by herding and the value of meat, milk, and fiber. Chickens descended mainly from red jungle fowl, yet their early spread involved food, ritual, trade, and later intensive selection for eggs or meat. Horses became important for transport and power after long periods of hunting, management, and breeding. There is no fixed moment when the 10th, 20th, or 100th generation suddenly becomes domestic. The process builds gradually as inherited differences accumulate and human control becomes more complete. That makes reproduction the true bottleneck. A possible domestic animal must survive close confinement without constant injury or panic. Males and females must mate under managed conditions. Pregnant animals need to carry their young successfully while living near people. The offspring must survive, grow, and reproduce again. Handlers then have to repeat the cycle for decades, centuries, or even longer. All of that requires food, fencing, labor, and protection from predators and disease. The animal must provide enough value to justify those costs. A species can be fairly easy to tame and still be difficult to domesticate. Another may be nervous as an individual, yet reproduce well enough in managed groups for selection to continue. Useful traits can compensate for inconvenient ones when the reward is high. The zebra problem therefore extends far beyond catching a foal and raising it gently. Humans would have needed to manage entire families, choose breeding pairs, protect births, and keep the calmer descendants reproducing for generation after generation. That process never became stable enough to create a domestic zebra lineage. The resemblance to horses makes this even more striking, because both animals inherited the same basic body plan from closely related ancestors before their evolutionary paths began to separate. Long before people selected horses for riding or zebras for display, both belonged to a much older animal family. That family is called Equidae, the group containing living horses, donkeys, and zebras. Every surviving member also belongs to the genus Equus, a scientific name for the branch that includes all modern equids. The genus appeared roughly 4 to 4.5 million years ago. Its body had already traveled through a much longer history. Some early equids were small forest animals with several functional toes on each foot. As climates shifted and broad grasslands expanded, later forms became larger and more suited to traveling across firm, open ground. Their legs lengthened. Side toes gradually became smaller. More body weight passed through the middle digit, which corresponds to the third finger or toe in the basic mammal limb plan. In modern zebras and horses, that central digit ends inside the hoof. The hoof wall is made from keratin, the same strong protein found in human fingernails, though arranged into a much thicker weight-bearing structure. Reduced side toes and longer lower legs allowed the limb to swing with less effort. A straighter line of force also helped support a heavy body while running. These changes accumulated over millions of generations. No ancestral animal decided to trade several toes for one. Individuals with useful variations survived and reproduced slightly more often under particular conditions. Over immense spans of time, those small differences reshaped the family. The earliest members of Equus arose in North America. From there, populations moved into Asia across the Bering Land region, where sea levels sometimes fell enough to expose dry ground between Alaska and Siberia. Their descendants spread west into Europe and south toward Africa. Different branches encountered deserts, grasslands, mountains, winter cold, tropical diseases, and unfamiliar predators. Equids later disappeared from the Americas near the end of the Pleistocene, around 10,000 years ago. Horses returned only after Europeans carried domestic animals across the Atlantic during the late 15th and early 16th centuries. By then, the surviving wild branches had already followed separate evolutionary routes for a very long time. Populations in Eurasia contributed to the wild horses from which modern domestic horses eventually emerged. African branches produced asses and the animals now recognized as zebras. Those African lineages lived alongside lions, hyenas, biting flies, seasonal drought, and large movements between grass and water. Each pressure rewarded its own mixture of speed, vigilance, digestion, social behavior, and resistance to disease. The coat pattern was only one visible result. A zebra is therefore much more than a horse with stripes added to its skin. Its ancestry reached Africa through deep geological time, and its body continued changing within African environments. Fossils related to Grevy's zebra have been found in Kenya from the Middle Pleistocene, a period extending from roughly 770,000 to 126,000 years ago. Those remains show that large, narrow-striped zebras belong to a long East African history. The separation between modern equids can also be seen inside their cells. Domestic horses have 64 chromosomes. Donkeys have 62. Grevy's zebras have 46. Plain zebras 44, and mountain zebras 32. Chromosomes are long packages of DNA stored inside the cell nucleus. Their number does not reveal how intelligent, advanced, or successful an animal is. Mountain zebras do not carry less biological information simply because they have fewer chromosomes than horses. During evolution, chromosomes can join, split, or rearrange, while most of the important genetic material remains present. These differences become especially important when closely related equids produce hybrids. The chromosomes inherited from each parent may have difficulty pairing correctly, while reproductive cells are formed. That helps explain why many crosses between zebras, horses, and donkeys cannot produce offspring of their own. The details of those hybrids belong much later in the human story. For now, the chromosome differences offer a quiet measure of distance. Horses and zebras still share the same basic skeleton, digestive plan, and single-hoofed limb. Their family connection remains visible in every step. Natural selection carried each branch through different climates and dangers, gradually building animals suited to different lives. One branch would eventually enter villages, roads, armies, and farms across Eurasia. That partnership depended on a particular place, a particular population, and a chain of human choices that was far less inevitable than the modern world makes it appear. Before horses carried riders or pulled wagons, they were wild grazing animals moving across the open lands of Eurasia. For thousands of years, people hunted them for meat and hides. Some communities later began keeping horses closer, watching their movements and controlling access to them. One of the earliest important places in this story is Botai, in the grasslands of present-day northern Kazakhstan. Botai settlements date mainly from around 3700 to 3100, before the Common Era. Archaeologists have found enormous quantities of horse bones there, along with pottery that held traces of horse milk fat. Wear on some horse teeth has also been interpreted as possible evidence of bridles or other mouth equipment, though that evidence remains debated. Botai people were clearly using horses intensively. They may have milked them, managed herds, and perhaps ridden some individuals. Ancient DNA later revealed an important surprise. The Botai horses were not the main ancestors of the domestic horses living today. They were more closely connected to the lineage represented by Przewalski's horse, the compact, wild-looking horse now associated with Mongolia and nearby parts of Central Asia. The ancestry of most modern domestic horses appeared elsewhere and spread later. A major ancient DNA study published in 2021 examined more than 270 horse genomes from archaeological remains across Eurasia. A genome is the full set of genetic instructions carried by an organism. By comparing horses from different places and centuries, researchers could follow populations as some lineages disappeared and others expanded. The strongest ancestry connected to modern domestic horses emerged in the lower Volga-Don region of the western Eurasian steppe. This area lies north of the Black and Caspian Seas, where broad grasslands supported mobile human communities and large herds. Around 2200 before the Common Era, horses from this region began spreading rapidly across Eurasia. Within only a few centuries, their ancestry appeared thousands of kilometers away. This was a major population turnover. Local horse lineages that had existed in Europe and Asia were increasingly replaced or mixed with the expanding domestic population. Two regions of the horse genome received particular attention. One included a gene called GSDMC, linked with structures involved in the back and movement. The other included ZFPM1, a gene associated in some studies with behavior and nervous system development. Changes around these genes suggest that people were favoring horses whose bodies and reactions made them easier to manage and more useful for transport. The exact traits selected at every stage cannot be reconstructed from DNA alone. The wider pattern is clear enough. People controlled breeding. Horses with useful inherited qualities left more offspring. Those offspring entered the same human-managed system and passed their traits forward again. Success made the process easier to continue. A manageable horse could carry supplies farther than a person could carry them. Herding animals over large distances became faster. Messages, trade goods, and people could travel between settlements in less time. Later, horses became important in chariot warfare and riding, giving societies strong reasons to protect breeding animals and improve their bloodlines. Every useful generation increased the value of producing another. Human communities shared horses, techniques, and equipment across wide regions. A successful domestic lineage could therefore spread beyond the people who first developed it. That chain depended on a rare meeting between biology and history. Suitable horses lived near communities willing to manage them. The animals reproduced under human control, while each generation offered enough value to justify the effort. The process took centuries and involved many failed animals, lost foals, difficult stallions, and changing human needs. Horse domestication now appears ordinary because its descendants became so widespread. Its beginning was a narrow historical path. No comparable zebra breeding tradition grew large enough to reinforce itself across generations and move between societies. Before that contrast can be understood fully, the familiar striped animal must separate into 3 species, each shaped by a different African landscape. Across Africa, the striped members of the horse family occupy landscapes that differ in rainfall, elevation, soil, and access to water. The plain zebra is the form most people recognize. Its body is broad and rounded, with a horse-like head and dark stripes that usually spread across the belly and legs. The exact pattern changes across its enormous range. Northern populations often carry bold black bands down to the hooves, while some southern animals have paler legs and faint brown shadow stripes between the darker ones. Plains zebras still occupy parts of eastern and southern Africa, giving them the widest surviving range of the three species. They graze in open woodlands, savannas, and broad grasslands from Kenya and Tanzania south toward Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. Some remain within one region throughout the year. Others gather into large herds and travel hundreds of kilometers as rain produces fresh grass in distant places. Their rounded bodies contain a digestive system capable of processing coarse stems that many smaller grazers leave behind. Broad plains also allow family groups to combine into temporary herds containing hundreds or even thousands of animals. Farther south and west, the ground becomes steeper. Mountain zebras occupy dry, rocky country in Namibia and South Africa, where slopes can be broken by cliffs, narrow ledges, and loose stone. Their hooves are hard and relatively narrow, providing firm contact on uneven surfaces. A white belly sits below close dark stripes. Across the rump, the markings form a grid-like pattern, rather than the wide horizontal bands common on plains zebras. Mountain zebras also have a visible fold of skin beneath the throat, called a dewlap. Two living forms are recognized. The Cape Mountain zebra survives mainly in South Africa. Hartmann's mountain zebra occupies a larger area across Namibia and parts of northwestern South Africa. Both can travel through rugged terrain, where a large herd would have difficulty remaining together. Family groups are therefore usually smaller, although several groups may gather near good grazing or water. A very different zebra lives much farther north. Grevy's zebra is concentrated mainly in northern Kenya, with a smaller population remaining in Ethiopia. Its home includes dry grasslands, thorny shrublands, and semi-arid plains where rain may arrive briefly and unevenly. This species is the largest living wild equid. Adults commonly stand between 1.45 and 1.6 meters at the shoulder. Many weigh between 350 and 450 kilograms. Long legs support a tall, narrow body. The head is large and somewhat donkey-like, while the rounded ears are much bigger than those of a plain zebra. Each ear can turn toward a sound, helping the animal detect movement across open ground. Grevy stripes are narrow and packed closely together. They curve in rings around the rump and stop before reaching the pale belly. The white underside may reflect the different timing and placement of pigment during development, while the dense stripes create a pattern unlike that of either other species. Water has helped shape more than appearance. Plains zebras usually remain close enough to drink regularly. Grevy zebras can range through drier land and may pass several days between visits to water, although nursing mothers need to drink more often. Widely scattered resources also change how the animals organize themselves. Plains and mountain zebras commonly form stable families containing one stallion, several mares, and their young. Grevy's mares move through much larger home ranges and may join temporary groups that change from day to day. Adult males often defend territories, especially land near water, that visiting females are likely to use. These three ecological strategies have not produced equal security. Current conservation assessments place the plain zebra as near threatened and the mountain zebra as vulnerable. Gravy zebra is endangered, following major losses from hunting, shrinking habitat, restricted water access, and competition with livestock. Humanity therefore encountered several zebra lineages, each carrying its own mixture of body size, social behavior, and environmental needs. Beneath those visible differences, all three species rely on the same basic running design, beginning where a single hoof meets the ground. Current conservation categories and Grevy zebra measurements were verified against recent species summaries. At the bottom of each leg, the zebra stands on one enlarged central toe. This makes zebras perissodactyls, a group of odd-toed hoofed mammals that also includes horses, donkeys, rhinoceroses, and tapirs. The hoof belongs to the toe itself. Its hard outer wall is a thick form of nail made from keratin, the same protein found in hair and human fingernails. Inside that wall sits the final bone of the third digit, surrounded by connective tissue, blood vessels, nerves, and softer structures that spread pressure across the foot. The underside includes a firm sole and a springier, wedge-shaped area called the frog. As the hoof meets the ground, these tissues help absorb impact and support blood flow through the lower limb. A running zebra may place several times its body weight through one leg during a stride. That force travels upward through the ankle-like joints, long bones, tendons, and ligaments. The lower leg looks narrow because it contains relatively little bulky muscle. Most of the largest muscles sit higher, close to the shoulders, chest, hips, and upper legs. This arrangement saves energy. A heavy object is harder to swing when its weight sits far from the joint, turning it. By keeping the lower limb light, the zebra reduces the effort needed to move each leg forward and backward thousands of times. Long tendons connect the upper muscles to bones near the hoof. Some of these tendons stretch slightly when the foot lands, storing energy like a firm elastic band. As the leg leaves the ground, part of that energy is released into the next step. The result is a limb that can move rapidly while supporting an animal weighing several hundred kilograms. Long legs also increase stride length. Powerful muscles around the hips drive the hindquarters forward, while the shoulders guide and support the front of the body. The spine bends modestly during faster movement, adding a little more reach to each stride. A zebra can reach speeds generally estimated between 55 and 65 kilometers per hour. Maximum speed tells only part of the survival story. A lion beginning its charge from close range may already be traveling quickly before the zebra reaches full speed. Early detection creates extra seconds for acceleration. Firm ground allows stronger pushes than deep mud or loose sand. A sudden turn can force a predator to slow down and shift its weight. During a chase, control over direction may matter more than a small difference in top speed. The same body must also collect enough food to power all that movement. At the front of the mouth, broad incisors close against each other and cut grass near the ground. The lips and tongue position each mouthful before rows of cheek teeth grind it into smaller pieces. Grass is demanding material. Many species contain tiny particles of silica, a hard mineral taken up from the soil and built into plant tissue. Wind-blown dust adds another abrasive layer. Each bite slowly wears the chewing surfaces. Zebras compensate with high crown teeth, meaning that much of each tooth begins hidden inside the jaw. The exposed crown gradually wears down, while more of the tooth continues to emerge. This slow eruption keeps a useful grinding surface available through years of feeding. The head also carries the equipment needed to notice danger, while the mouth remains close to the grass. The eyes sit on the sides of the skull, creating a broad view across the surrounding landscape. Small, blind areas remain directly in front of the face and behind the body, while the overlapping view ahead helps with judging distance. Each large ear can turn toward a sound. One ear may follow movement from the herd, while the other points toward a rustle in dry grass. A feeding zebra can therefore keep gathering information without holding its head upright every moment. Its hooves support rapid movement. Its teeth maintain the energy supply, and its sensory organs watch the open space around it. Those systems provide the physical possibility of escape. The decision to release that power begins inside a nervous system shaped to react before the source of danger becomes completely clear. A feeding zebra may lower its head for several seconds at a time, tearing grass while its ears continue to turn. A sudden movement on the horizon can interrupt that rhythm immediately. The trigger may be a distant shape, the scent of a predator, or a nearby herd member lifting its head sharply. Certainty often arrives too late for a prey animal. Running from a harmless noise costs energy and feeding time. Remaining still when a lion is approaching carries a much greater cost. An animal that hesitates at the wrong moment may never reproduce again. Across many generations, this imbalance favored zebras that responded quickly to incomplete information. Their ancestors survived by treating some uncertain signals as possible danger. Once a threat is detected, sensory information travels rapidly through the brain and activates the sympathetic nervous system. This is the network that prepares the body for urgent action. Signals pass to the adrenal glands, which sit near the kidneys and release hormones such as adrenaline. The heart begins beating faster. Breathing deepens, and blood vessels redirect more blood toward the large muscles of the legs. Stored sugar becomes available for quick energy. Digestion slows temporarily because processing grass can wait until the immediate danger has passed. A zebra may lift its head, turn toward the disturbance, and gather more information for a moment. If nearby animals begin running, their movement becomes evidence of its own. The first few strides may occur before the predator is clearly visible. Lions are among the most important predators of adult zebras. They usually depend on cover and a short, powerful rush, rather than chasing at full speed across several kilometers. Early warning therefore changes the entire encounter. A zebra that begins moving while the lion is still far away gains space for acceleration and turning. Other predators create different risks. Spotted hyenas may pursue young, injured, or isolated animals over longer distances. African wild dogs rely on group pursuit and endurance. Leopards may take small foals, while crocodiles become dangerous at river crossings. Cheetahs generally focus on smaller prey, though a young zebra can occasionally be vulnerable. These pressures help explain why restraint feels so unnatural to a wild equid. A frightened zebra normally solves danger by increasing distance. Fences, ropes, stalls, and handlers remove that option. When forward escape is blocked, defensive behavior becomes more likely. The incisors used to cut grass can close forcefully on an attacker. Front legs can strike downward. A kick from the hindquarters transfers the power of the hips through a long leg and a hard hoof. Such a blow can injure a lion, damage a wooden barrier, or seriously hurt a person standing within range. Rearing can also create space when the animal feels crowded from the front. These reactions do not make every zebra equally dangerous. Temperament varies between individuals. A foal raised around people may respond differently from an adult captured in the wild. Previous handling can reduce fear in some animals, while painful experiences can make later reactions stronger. Stallions may behave differently from mares, and gravy zebras do not organize their lives in exactly the same way as plain zebras. Domestication would require people to work with that variation over many generations. Breeders would need to identify animals that tolerated close contact and unfamiliar surroundings. Those individuals would also have to remain healthy enough to mate, carry young, and care for foals under managed conditions. Their calmer offspring would need to reproduce again. A single manageable animal could begin the process, though its behavior would matter only if some part of that tolerance was inherited. Repeated selection slowly shifts a population. Without that repetition, each new zebra begins with much of the same predator-shaped sensitivity carried by its wild ancestors. The reaction that makes a rope difficult to use is closely connected to the reaction that allows a herd to survive an approaching lion. Each zebra also watches the animals beside it, allowing fear, calm, and movement to pass through the group before any one individual has gathered the whole picture. A zebra's safety depends partly on where it stands and which animals surround it. Nearby bodies can reveal danger, provide grooming, guide movement, and help protect young. Among plain zebras, the basic social unit is usually a family containing one adult stallion, several mares, and their dependent offspring. The exact number varies. Some families contain only a few animals, while others grow larger as mares remain with the same group across many seasons. These family units can stay recognizable even when hundreds or thousands of plain zebras gather in one place. During migration or near water, many families may appear to merge into a single flowing herd. Inside that mass, individuals still remain close to familiar companions. A mare may follow another mare she has known for years. A foal stays near its mother. The family stallion often travels toward the rear, where he can watch animals that begin to fall behind. Stable membership reduces the need to renegotiate every social encounter. Familiar animals already know which approaches are tolerated and which signals mean that space is needed. Mares within a plains zebra family often form a loose order, influenced partly by how long each one has belonged to the group. An experienced mare may guide movement toward water or fresh grazing. Her role can grow from age, familiarity with the landscape, and the trust built through repeated travel. The stallion's position involves defense and reproduction, though he does not direct every decision. The family moves through many small responses shared among several animals. Social grooming helps maintain those relationships. Two zebras stand side by side, facing opposite directions, and use their incisors to nibble through the hair along the neck, shoulders, or upper back. These areas are difficult for one animal to reach alone. The action can loosen dirt, disturb parasites, and scratch irritated skin. It also requires close contact and calm cooperation. A familiar grooming partner can remain within biting distance without triggering a defensive reaction. Young males eventually leave or lose access to family groups. Many enter bachelor groups containing males that have not yet gained mares or territories. Inside these groups, they practice adult behavior through chasing, neck wrestling, rearing, and controlled biting. The encounters help them learn the strength and limits of other males, while reducing the risks of constant serious fighting. As they mature, some will challenge family stallions or attempt to attract mares. Others may spend years without breeding. Mountain zebras use a broadly similar family system. Their groups are often smaller, because steep slopes and scattered forage make it harder for many animals to travel and feed together. Grevy zebras follow a different arrangement. The strongest lasting bond is usually between a mother and her foal. Adult females move across broad home ranges, joining temporary groups that may change within hours or days. One gathering can form near good grass, then separate as animals travel toward different water sources. Adult Gravy's males often defend territories rather than permanent harems. A territory may cover several square kilometers. Land near dependable water can be especially valuable because females must eventually pass through it. A resident male marks the area with dung and urine, patrols its boundaries, and challenges rival males that remain too long. This social difference grows from the way resources are arranged. Where grass and water occur in broad, dependable patches, stable families can move together without placing too much pressure on one location. Across dry country, permanent groups may compete too heavily for scattered food. A looser system allows females to follow changing conditions, while territorial males wait near places they are likely to visit. Captivity changes the landscape without erasing these inherited expectations. A plain zebra separated from familiar companions may become distressed even when food and shelter are available. Placing unfamiliar adults together can create conflict, while new relationships form. Grevy's males may react strongly when confined near rivals, without enough space to establish distance. A breeding program would need to manage those social needs, while controlling mating, protecting foals, and keeping handlers safe. The structure of zebra society therefore makes sense within grasslands, mountains, and dry plains. Each arrangement helps animals find partners, share information, and use limited resources. Every group still faces the same physical demand, because several hundred kilograms of grazing animal must keep passing enough grass through its digestive system to remain alive and moving. A mouthful begins when the front incisors close around a clump of grass. The zebra pulls upward, and the sharp edges of the upper and lower teeth sever the stems. Its flexible lips help select the plants, while the tongue moves each bite toward the back of the mouth. Broad cheek teeth then crush and grind the material before it is swallowed. This first stage matters because grass is difficult food. Plant cells are surrounded by walls containing cellulose, a tough carbohydrate that gives stems much of their strength. A zebra cannot break cellulose apart with its own digestive enzymes, It depends on billions of microbes living farther along the digestive tract. After swallowing, food passes down the oesophagus into a relatively simple stomach. Acid and enzymes begin processing proteins and other compounds there. The partly digested material then enters the small intestine, where sugars, fats, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals can move through the intestinal wall into the blood. Much of the fibrous plant material remains intact at this point. It continues into a large chamber called the cecum. The cecum sits near the meeting point between the small and large intestines and forms a wide, blind-ended pouch. Beyond it lies the enlarged colon. Together, these chambers create a warm, moist fermentation system filled with bacteria and other microscopic organisms. The microbes release enzymes that split cellulose into simpler material. During this process, they produce compounds called volatile fatty acids. Despite the word acid, these are useful fuels. They pass through the intestinal wall and enter the bloodstream, where the zebra's cells can use them for energy. This arrangement is known as hindgut fermentation, because most microbial breakdown occurs behind the small intestine. Cattle, antelope, and wildebeest use a different system. They are ruminants, animals with a multi-chambered stomach that ferments vegetation before it reaches the small intestine. A wildebeest may swallow grass quickly, bring it back into the mouth later as cud, and chew it again. That slower process can remove more nutrition from each mouthful. Zebras gain an advantage through speed and volume. Food moves through their digestive system more quickly, allowing them to eat large quantities of vegetation that may be too coarse or dry for more selective grazers. They may lose some possible nutrition in their dung, yet they can continue feeding on older stems when softer plants become scarce. Field observations often find zebras spending between 60 and 80% of their active time feeding, depending on the season, habitat, and quality of the grass. During the dry season, each mouthful may contain more fiber and less protein. The animal compensates by grazing for longer periods and moving between larger patches. Fresh rain changes the calculation. Young green shoots contain more moisture and are easier to digest, allowing the herd to gather energy more quickly. This feeding style also changes the landscape for other animals. Plains zebras often enter areas where tall, mature grass has grown beyond the preferred height of wildebeest and smaller antelope. Their strong teeth crop the rough upper growth. Once those stems are shortened, fresh leaves near the base become easier for more selective grazers to reach. In parts of the Serengeti, zebras commonly move alongside wildebeest during seasonal migrations. The two species can use the same grassland in different ways. Zebras handle the taller and more fibrous material, while wildebeest concentrate more heavily on shorter, richer growth. Dung returns partly processed plant matter to the soil and feeds insects, fungi, and bacteria. Seeds may also pass through the digestive tract and reach new patches of ground. A grazing zebra therefore shapes plant height, nutrient movement, and the feeding opportunities available to neighboring species. Its diet would not have prevented domestication by itself. People can provide hay, cut grass, and other suitable plant foods. The harder challenge involved behavior, breeding, and long-term management. Even so, the digestive system explains why zebras spend so much of life with their heads lowered, and their bodies slowly advancing across open land. Grass may stretch across many kilometers. Water gathers in far fewer places, and the distance between feeding grounds and the next drink begins to set the rhythm of the day. Each mouthful of dry grass increases the need for water moving through the body. Moisture leaves a zebra in several ways. The kidneys remove waste through urine, while the intestines release water inside dung. Every breath also carries a small amount of water vapor into the air. On a hot afternoon, sweating can become the largest immediate loss. Sweat spreads across the skin and absorbs heat from the body. As the liquid changes into vapor, it carries some of that heat away. This process is called evaporative cooling. It works especially well when the air is dry and moving, though every drop used for cooling must eventually be replaced. A zebra standing beneath direct sun may reduce its activity during the hottest hours. Shade from an acacia tree or taller woodland can lower the amount of heat reaching the coat. Skin muscles create quick ripples along the flanks, disturbing flies before they settle. The tail swings across the hindquarters, while the head may reach back to brush insects from the sides. These small movements help defend the skin without requiring the animal to leave a useful feeding area. Dust bathing provides another form of coat care. A zebra lowers its body onto dry ground and rolls from one side to the other. Fine particles spread through the hair, where they can absorb excess skin oils and disturb ticks or other small parasites. Afterward, the animal may stand and shake, releasing a pale cloud around its body. Water needs differ among the three species. Plain zebras usually drink often, commonly every day when conditions allow. Their movements remain closely linked to rivers, pools, springs, and artificial water points. A family feeding several kilometers away must eventually turn toward one of these dependable places. Grevy zebras are better suited to dry country. Healthy adults may endure roughly 2 to 5 days without drinking under suitable conditions. Their bodies still lose water, though they can tolerate a larger temporary shortage while traveling between scattered sources. This ability helps them use semi-arid areas of northern Kenya and southern Ethiopia, where permanent water may be separated by long stretches of thorn scrub and dry grass. A mare producing milk faces a tighter limit. Milk contains a large amount of water, which passes from the mother's bloodstream into the udder and then into the foal. Lactating Grevy's mares therefore return to water more frequently than many other adults. Young foals also have less room for dehydration because their smaller bodies contain fewer total reserves. These different demands shape the daily route. Grazing may begin during the cooler morning, when moisture remains on some plants and the sun is still low. As temperatures rise, the family may stand in shade or continue feeding at a slower pace. A dust bathing patch, rubbing tree, or resting place can become part of the path toward water. The journey may resume in late afternoon, when the ground begins releasing stored heat and insects remain active around the herd. At a waterhole, the animals approach with greater caution. Heads lift repeatedly while the group closes the final distance. Lions often wait near places where prey must gather. Crocodiles create danger along some rivers, especially where steep or muddy banks limit escape. Livestock may arrive at the same source, increasing competition and sometimes forcing wild animals to drink at less favorable hours. Biting flies concentrate near water because they need moisture for parts of their life cycle. Mud can hold eggs or larvae, while the animals gathered nearby provide blood meals. Shared water points may also bring pathogens closer together. A pathogen is a bacterium, virus, parasite, or other organism capable of causing disease. Droppings near the edge can contaminate shallow water, and close contact allows some infections to pass between livestock and wildlife. For adult male gravy zebras, water can also shape territory. A male occupying land near a dependable source may encounter more traveling females. He marks important locations with urine and repeated piles of dung called middens. The scent provides information about his presence and reproductive condition to other zebras passing through. Open land therefore contains an invisible network of obligations. Grass supplies energy, shade reduces heat load, and water restores what breathing and cooling remove. When seasonal drying stretches the distance between these places, the familiar daily circuit begins expanding across hundreds of kilometers. As dry season water shrinks, the distance between food and safety begins to grow. Rain rarely reaches every part of southern Africa at the same time. One region may remain dusty, while storms gather 200 kilometers away. Within days, shallow pans can fill, dormant grasses can send up green shoots, and a landscape that looked empty can begin offering food again. Plains zebras respond by extending ordinary travel into migration. A family may leave a familiar riverbank and follow older animals toward places remembered from earlier seasons. The route develops from several kinds of information gathered together. The smell of rain can arrive before the storm itself. Clouds darken one horizon. Fresh growth may appear along low ground where water collected first. Experienced mares also carry knowledge of past journeys, including resting places and dependable water. One of the longest known zebra movements connects the Chobe River region with Ngaipan in Botswana. The round trip covers roughly 500 kilometers. During the dry season, zebras remain near the Chobe River, where permanent water supports large numbers of grazing animals. When summer rain reaches the interior, families begin moving south toward Ngaipan National Park. The Pan is a broad, shallow basin. After rain, grasses grow quickly across the surrounding flats, creating a temporary feeding ground rich enough to reward the long journey. The trip does not unfold at one steady speed. Some days bring long stretches of purposeful movement. Other periods include several nights in one area, while the animals feed and allow foals to recover. A stalled storm can slow the migration. Fresh rain farther ahead can pull the herd onward. Another Botswana route revealed how easily this movement can be broken. For about 40 years, a veterinary fence blocked zebras traveling between the Okavango region and the grasslands near the Makadikgadi salt pans. These fences were built largely to separate livestock from wildlife and reduce the spread of diseases such as foot and mouth disease. For a migrating animal, a wire barrier can divide water from grass, even when both remain visible. The obstructing section was removed in 2004. 4 years later, researchers fitted adult mares with GPS collars and recorded zebras using the old route again. A GPS collar receives signals from satellites and stores the animal's location at regular intervals. Months of points can reveal a full path, along with pauses and changes in travel speed. The returning migration suggested that knowledge of the route had survived decades of blockage. Some older animals may have remembered part of it. Younger zebras could then have learned by following them. Researchers combined the collar records with measurements collected from space. NASA's Terra and Aqua satellites carried instruments that repeatedly photographed the Earth's surface. From those images, scientists calculated vegetation indices, which are numerical estimates of how green and active plant growth has become. The Tropical Rainfall Measuring Mission added information about where rain had fallen and how much water the storms released. When the data were compared, zebra movement matched changes in rainfall and new vegetation. The animals did not leave on exactly the same date every year. Their progress changed with conditions. A strong burst of rain could produce greener ground and faster travel toward it. Poor growth might keep the herd closer to dependable water. Memory provided a map, while current conditions helped decide how quickly to follow it. The landscape also had to remain open enough for the journey to continue. A road can be crossed. A dense settlement may be avoided. A continuous fence can stop thousands of animals at once. Migration, therefore, depends on the condition of the route as much as the condition of the zebras. Each family carries the needs of pregnant mares, nursing foals, and adults losing water under the sun. Those individual demands combine into an event stretching across parks, ranches, and national borders. Over every kilometer, the herd carries another kind of map on its skin. Each pattern was established before birth, while pigment cells and growing tissue were still arranging the bands that would remain visible for life. The bands carried across the grassland were already taking shape months before each foal first stood beside its mother. During early development, the body began as a small collection of dividing cells. Those cells multiplied, moved, and received chemical instructions that helped form skin, nerves, muscles, and hair follicles. A follicle is the tiny pocket in the skin from which a hair grows. By the time a zebra is born, thousands of follicles across the head, neck, body, and legs have been assigned different pigment activity. Dark hairs contain melanin, the same broad family of pigments that colors human hair and skin. Cells called melanocytes produce this pigment and transfer it into the growing hair shaft. In the pale bands, little or no dark melanin enters the hair. The hair appears white because it lacks enough pigment to absorb much visible light. There is no separate white coloring substance filling those hairs. The skin beneath both the dark and pale parts of the coat is generally dark. This is why a shaved or injured area may reveal skin that does not repeat the sharp black and white pattern visible in the hair. The distinction between neighboring stripes begins while the skin is still developing. Pigment cells must respond differently in one narrow region than they do only a few centimeters away. Hair follicles also form while the body is changing size and shape. A pattern laid across a small developing limb becomes stretched as the bones lengthen and the skin expands. The head, torso, rump, and legs do not grow at identical rates. That helps explain why the stripes change direction and width across different parts of the body. Broad bands cross the sides of many plain zebras. Narrower lines wrap around the legs and face. On a mountain zebra, the rump develops a grid-like arrangement. Grevy zebras carry many close-set stripes that curve tightly around the hindquarters. Scientists use several kinds of models to explore how such patterns could form. One influential idea is called a reaction diffusion system. The name describes chemicals that react with each other and spread through developing tissue. One signal may encourage pigment activity nearby. A second signal may limit that activity and travel a little farther. Small differences can grow as the two signals interact. One patch becomes strongly active, while a nearby patch becomes suppressed. Repeated across growing skin, this process can create alternating bands without the embryo carrying a separate instruction for every stripe. The idea was developed mathematically by Alan Turing in 1952. Turing is better known for his work in computing, though he also studied how simple chemical interactions might create patterns in living bodies. Modern simulations based on similar principles can produce stripes, spots, and winding maze-like shapes. Changing the speed of tissue growth or the distance traveled by each signal can alter the final pattern. A fast-growing surface may stretch spots into bands. Different signal strengths can make stripes wider, thinner, or less regular. These models show that complex markings can emerge from simple local rules. They do not prove that a zebra embryo uses one exact pair of chemicals in precisely this way. Researchers still need direct evidence from developing tissue to identify the full biological process. Genes control pigment production, cell movement, and communication, while the physical growth of the body changes how those instructions appear across the finished coat. Once established, the arrangement remains distinctive throughout the animal's life. Scars, hair loss, and aging may change small areas, though the main stripe layout stays recognizable. Researchers can photograph a zebra's side and compare the image with earlier records. Computer programs search for matching curves, intersections, and spaces between dark bands. Some newer systems fit photographs onto a three-dimensional model of the body. This allows the same animal to be recognized even when it turns at a different angle or stands at another distance from the camera. The process is called biometric re-identification, meaning that a natural body feature is used to identify the same individual again. A coat produced before birth can therefore become a lifelong record. It allows scientists to follow births, deaths, movements, and social relationships without placing a permanent tag on every animal. Development explains how one body can produce its own repeating design. The reason evolution kept producing that design depends on what the stripes did for the generations that carried them. Once a stripe pattern exists, natural selection can preserve it only when the animals carrying it leave enough surviving offspring. For more than a century, scientists have proposed several benefits. Some suggested camouflage among grass and broken shade. Others focused on the confusion created when many striped bodies run together. Heat control, individual recognition, and protection from biting insects have also been examined. These ideas do not all have equal support. Researchers test them by comparing stripe patterns across living equids and the environments they occupy. They measure stripe width and coverage, then compare those traits with vegetation, predator numbers, temperature, humidity, group size, and the expected activity of blood-feeding flies. A useful explanation should match the geography. If stripes mainly hide zebras from lions, stronger striping should appear where predator pressure is highest. If cooling drove the pattern, darker or denser bands should closely follow hotter conditions. The broadest comparisons have repeatedly found the strongest association with regions favorable to biting flies. Horseflies and tsetse flies can remove blood, irritate the skin, and interrupt feeding. Some also carry pathogens between animals. A pathogen is a disease-causing organism, such as a bacterium, virus, or parasite. African equids face particular risk because several fly species remain active during warm, wet periods when grazing animals gather near water. The most memorable direct test was published in 2019. Researchers worked at a horse facility in Britain, where captive zebras and domestic horses could be watched under similar conditions. Horseflies approached both kinds of animal. Video recordings allowed the researchers to follow their final flight paths, rather than relying only on the number found sitting on the skin. As the flies neared a horse, many slowed and completed a controlled landing. Approaches toward zebras often ended differently. The insects passed too quickly, changed direction late, or collided with the coat before bouncing away. The stripes had not made the animals invisible. Flies still detected them and flew close. The largest difference appeared during the final moments before contact. Striped coats placed over domestic horses provided a stronger test. A horse wearing one of these coverings remained the same animal beneath it, with the same smell, body heat, movement, and general size. Fewer horseflies landed on the striped fabric than on plain dark or pale coverings. The uncovered head continued attracting flies at a higher rate. This result showed that the visible pattern itself was affecting landing behavior. A horsefly sees through compound eyes made from many small visual units. Each unit gathers light from a narrow part of the scene. Together, they create a broad view that is good at detecting movement. Fine detail is limited compared with human vision. During landing, the insect must judge distance and reduce speed, while the image of the approaching surface expands across its eyes. This changing pattern of motion is called optical flow. Strong black and white edges may interfere with that information when the fly comes close. Several mechanisms could contribute. The bands may create false signals about speed or direction. Reflected light can also differ in polarization, meaning the light waves are arranged in different orientations. A newer mathematical proposal suggests that stripe spacing may interact with the sampling pattern of a compound eye, producing unstable visual information at certain distances. That idea remains a theoretical model and still needs direct biological testing. Cooling may provide a smaller benefit under some conditions. Dark hair absorbs more solar energy than pale hair, which can create tiny temperature differences near the coat. Evidence that these differences cool the whole animal in a major way remains mixed. Camouflage also receives limited support as the primary explanation. Lions can detect zebras through movement, smell, and body shape, especially at the distances where a hunt begins. Predator confusion may still affect a chase once many animals start running, though it does not explain the full geographical pattern, as well as biting fly pressure does. The striped coat therefore appears to change another animal's sensory experience. Its broad bands may have been preserved because they reduce successful landings from insects small enough to rest between individual hairs. That protection can save blood and reduce irritation during long hours of grazing. Large predators remain unaffected by the same visual disruption. When a lion rises from cover, survival depends on the herd detecting the movement and turning many separate bodies into one coordinated escape. A grazing animal near the edge of the group suddenly raises its head. Its ears point toward a patch of grass, and the muscles along its neck become still. Nearby, zebras notice the change before they see the cause. One lifts its own head. A mare steps closer to her foal. Within seconds, attention spreads through the herd without a single alarm controlling the entire group. A lion depends heavily on getting close before the chase begins. Its broad paws and powerful hindquarters provide rapid acceleration, though that burst cannot continue indefinitely. Most successful attacks begin from cover, where tall grass, bushes, or uneven ground hide the approach. A zebra that detects the lion early forces it to cross more open space. The predator must spend additional energy, while the herd gains time to choose a direction. Maximum speed matters less when the starting distance is short. A lion already 20 meters away creates a very different problem from one detected at 200 meters. The zebra needs several strides to accelerate. A foal requires even more time to match the movement of the adults around it. Once flight begins, the herd changes shape. Animals that had been spread across a feeding area turn towards similar directions. Each zebra watches the speed and position of the bodies closest to it. Moving too slowly risks falling behind. Turning too sharply can cause a collision. Drifting too far outward may leave an individual exposed. These local adjustments create group coordination without requiring one animal to plan the route for everyone. A zebra responds mainly to a few nearby companions. Those companions respond to others beside them. Information passes through the herd as changes in direction and spacing. Sudden turns can be especially useful. A pursuer moving quickly carries momentum, meaning its body naturally continues along the same path. Changing direction requires the lion to slow down, shift its weight, and push against the ground from a new angle. Each correction costs time. A zebra may turn again before the predator has fully recovered from the first change. Terrain alters these choices. Firm, level ground supports fast acceleration. Loose soil reduces grip. Dense brush limits the width of the escape path. River crossings create an even narrower route, where animals may be crowded together and unable to turn freely. Crocodiles can wait below the surface near muddy banks, adding danger at the point where the herd has the fewest movement options. Young foals face greater risk because their legs are shorter and their experience is limited. An injured adult may struggle to remain inside the moving center. Isolation also matters. A lone zebra provides a predator with one clear target, while a group presents many bodies changing position at once. Researchers have begun measuring these escapes with drones. An aerial camera can follow the herd from above without needing to stand among the animals. In one recent analysis, scientists reconstructed the paths of 44 plain zebras during a flight response. Each animal became a moving point on a map. The video allowed researchers to calculate position, heading, speed, spacing, and acceleration from moment to moment. the herd became more aligned as the escape developed. Many animals pointed in similar directions during the fastest phase. Spacing changed again as the group slowed, with individuals adjusting their positions after the immediate danger had passed. This kind of measurement reveals details that ordinary field notes can miss. A person watching from the ground may describe a herd as tightly packed. Drone footage can show the exact distance between neighboring bodies and how that distance changes every second. It can also reveal whether animals near the center move differently from those along the outer edge. Zebras often share the landscape with wildebeest. The two species may graze close together or travel along the same migration route. Zebras can process tall, coarse grass, while wildebeest feed more selectively on shorter growth. A mixed gathering also places many eyes and ears across the feeding area. One species may react to a sound or scent before the other has identified it. The benefit comes from shared vigilance rather than perfect cooperation. Each animal still protects its own position and offspring. When danger arrives, the feeding community briefly becomes a moving pattern of bodies, directions, and changing distances. That exchange of information continues after the running stops. Ears rotate, voices carry across the grass, familiar animals approach, and close contact helps restore the social order of the herd. As the herd slows, the spaces between familiar animals begin to close. Breathing settles, heads lower, and grazing resumes. Communication continues through movements small enough to disappear inside the ordinary rhythm of feeding. A zebra can change the position of its ears in less than a second. Ears pointing forward often show attention towards something ahead. One ear may rotate backward to track movement behind the body, while the other remains aimed toward a nearby companion. Flattened ears commonly accompany threat, irritation, or defensive behavior. The rest of the posture provides important context. A zebra with pinned ears, an open mouth, and its head extended toward another animal may be warning it to move away. Flattened ears during grooming or close physical contact can have a different meaning, especially when the body remains relaxed. Head height also carries information. A sudden upward movement can alert nearby animals to possible danger. A lowered head may accompany grazing, submission, or an attempt to pass without challenging a more dominant individual. The tail can swish at insects, lift during excitement, or change position during reproductive behavior. Distance adds another layer. An animal that yields several steps may prevent a confrontation before biting or kicking becomes necessary. Sound carries when posture cannot be seen. Plain zebras can produce sharp barking calls that travel across open grassland. Other vocalizations include bray-like calls, snorts, squeals, and quieter sounds used at close range. A separated animal may call while searching for its family. A stallion confronting another male can combine vocal sound with an elevated head and tense body. Snorts may accompany alertness or forceful breathing after movement. The meaning depends on volume, repetition, social setting, and the behavior occurring at the same time. A mare and her foal begin learning each other through several channels soon after birth. The mother can inspect the newborn at close range, taking in its smell, voice, appearance, and movements. The foal remains near her body, and learns the sound of her calls. Among many striped animals, proximity and repeated experience help narrow the search. Researchers should therefore avoid treating the coat pattern as a complete social name tag. Individual stripes are useful to human observers and computer systems, though evidence that zebra society depends mainly on stripe recognition remains limited. Smell provides information that vision cannot always carry. Urine and dung contain chemical traces related to identity, sex, diet, health, and reproductive condition. Adult male Gravy's zebras may return to dung middens, where repeated deposits create a concentrated scent marker within a territory. A mare approaching reproductive readiness also releases odors that a stallion can investigate. During this inspection, the male may perform the flamen response. He raises his head, curls the upper lip, and draws scented air toward openings connected with the vomeronasal system. This sensory system detects some chemical signals associated with reproduction and social information. The curled lip gives the expression a dramatic appearance, though the movement serves a practical purpose by directing scent molecules toward specialized tissue. Touch becomes especially important between animals that already tolerate one another. Mutual grooming often occurs when two zebras stand side by side facing opposite directions. Each uses its incisors and lips to nibble along the other's neck, shoulders, or back. These areas are difficult for one animal to scratch effectively. Grooming can loosen dried mud, disturb small parasites, and relieve itching caused by insects. The social effect develops through repeated safe contact. Allowing another zebra close to the neck requires trust, since the same incisors can deliver a painful bite during conflict. Familiar partners often groom more readily than strangers. A foal may rub against its mother, or rest close enough to maintain physical contact. Adults use gentle touches, brief nose contact, and body position to confirm relationships without constant vocal calling. Communication becomes dependable because several kinds of evidence arrive together. An ear position gains meaning from the angle of the head. A call becomes clearer when the listener knows who produced it and where that animal stands. Scent can remain after the sender has moved away. Touch confirms tolerance at the closest possible distance. This layered system allows the herd to coordinate daily life without giving its members human thoughts or language. Its most urgent early test comes soon after birth, when one small foal must remain attached to the correct mother, while dozens of moving legs and striped bodies surround them. Long before a foal enters the herd, its mother has already invested nearly a year in its development. Zebra gestation generally lasts about 12 to 13 months, with some variation between species and individuals. During that time, the mare supplies oxygen and nutrients through the placenta, while continuing to graze, travel, and avoid predators. One foal is normal. Twins are rare and place greater strain on the mother, while also reducing the space and nutrients available to each developing young. As birth approaches, the mare may separate slightly from nearby animals or seek a quieter part of the landscape. This brief distance can reduce disturbance and give mother and foal time to form a clear connection. A typical birth begins with the foal's front feet entering the birth canal first, followed by the nose and shoulders. The limbs are positioned forward in a narrow shape that allows the body to pass more easily. The newborn initially emerges within thin fetal membranes. These tissues must tear or be cleared from the face so air can reach the nostrils. The mare may turn quickly to inspect the foal, lick its coat, and remove remaining membrane. A newborn zebra looks narrow and unfinished beside an adult. Its legs are remarkably long compared with the rest of its body. The joints begin folded beneath it, and the hooves carry soft temporary coverings that protected the mare's reproductive tract during birth. Those coverings wear away soon after contact with the ground. The foal's first efforts to rise are unsteady. It pushes with the front legs, lifts the chest, and struggles to bring the hindquarters underneath the body. A failed attempt may end with the legs sliding outward or folding again. Healthy foals often stand within approximately 15 to 30 minutes, though some require longer. Balance improves rapidly through repeated attempts and immediate sensory feedback from muscles, joints, and the inner ear. Once upright, the foal searches along the mare's underside for the udder. Its first milk is called colostrum. This thick, early fluid contains concentrated nutrients and a large supply of maternal antibodies. Antibodies are proteins that recognize particular infectious organisms and help the immune system respond to them. Equids receive very little antibody protection before birth because the structure of their placenta prevents most of these large proteins from passing directly from the mare's blood into the fetus. The newborn must absorb them through the intestine after drinking colostrum. This opportunity lasts only a short time. During roughly the first day, the intestinal wall can take in whole antibodies efficiently. Its ability to do so falls quickly afterward. Early nursing therefore supplies both energy and immediate protection against diseases already encountered by the mother. The mare may keep other zebras from approaching too closely during these first hours. That temporary separation helps the foal learn the combination of cues belonging to her. Her scent is strongest at close range. Her voice carries when the foal turns away. Body size, stripe arrangement, posture, and usual position provide additional information. Newborn stripes often appear brown and cream, rather than sharply black and white. The darker hair deepens as the coat matures. The foal does not need to understand every marking individually. Repeated contact allows smell, sound, appearance, and proximity to become linked with milk and safety. Movement becomes urgent very quickly. A healthy foal may run within about an hour of birth, although coordination continues improving for days. Its early running lacks the smooth rhythm of an adult. The legs may rise too high, turns may be wide, and stopping can require several uncertain steps. Even this limited ability greatly improves survival. The mother may need to move toward water, rejoin her family, or respond to an alarm before the foal has rested for long. Predator pressure has favored young, capable of following soon after birth. A lion, hyena, or wild dog gains an advantage from any delay that leaves the newborn behind. The mare stays close and may place her body between the foal and a disturbance. Other family members can add vigilance, though the mother remains the center of the newborn's world. By the end of its first day, the foal has already breathed, stood, nursed, recognized one essential adult, and traveled on its own legs. Mobility arrives quickly because open country allows little time for helplessness. adulthood still requires months of learning, as milk gives way to grass, and the young zebra begins absorbing the roots, relationships, and digestive microbes that support life within the herd. During the first weeks of life, milk remains the foal's main source of energy. It soon begins touching grass with its lips and copying the feeding movements of older zebras. Early bites may be chewed and dropped before swallowing becomes regular. The digestive tract is still developing, and the microbial community inside the hindgut must change as plant fiber enters the diet. Bacteria and other microbes reach the young animal through contact with its mother, the ground, shared water, and material from the surrounding herd. These organisms begin fermenting cellulose inside the cecum and colon. As their numbers and variety increase, the foal becomes better able to extract energy from grass. Physical growth is equally important. The cecum enlarges, the intestines mature, and the cheek teeth wear into effective grinding surfaces. Nursing continues while this digestive equipment develops. Weaning usually unfolds across many months rather than on one exact day. The mare gradually limits access to milk as the foal gains more nutrition from vegetation. Timing varies with species, the mother's condition, local food, and whether she becomes pregnant again. Young zebras also spend time playing. A foal may sprint away from its mother, turn sharply, and return within seconds. Two juveniles can rear against each other or push with their necks, while keeping the encounter below the intensity of an adult fight. Mock bites teach how close the incisors can come before a partner withdraws. Short chases strengthen the muscles needed for escape and improve control over long legs that are still changing in proportion. Play also reveals social boundaries. An older animal may tolerate a youngster approaching its shoulder, then flatten its ears when the contact becomes irritating. The juvenile learns to notice that warning and yield before a kick follows. Repeated experience teaches when to remain close to the family and which adults are safe grooming partners. Movement through the herd requires similar judgment. A foal traveling beside its mother benefits from her familiar position and protection. As it grows, it learns to follow group departures without becoming trapped between larger bodies. It discovers where to stand near water and when to wait, while a dominant animal drinks. Alarm responses become more precise as the youngster connects sounds, smells, and changes in posture with events occurring nearby. Inherited sensitivity provides the basic reaction. Experience helps direct it toward useful signals. The pathways of males and females begin to separate with maturity. Young plains and mountain zebra males eventually leave their birth families. Many enter bachelor groups where they gain social contact without immediate access to breeding mares. These associations provide space for sparring and the gradual development of adult strength. A mature plains or mountain male may later challenge a stallion or attempt to form a new family group. Success can bring long-term association with several mares and their offspring. Young gravies males follow a different route. As adults, they are more likely to compete for territories than for permanent harems. A male controlling land near water or productive grazing may encounter females moving through his range. Female development also reflects the species' social system. A plains zebra mare may join a stable family and remain with familiar companions for years. A Grevy's female moves through a looser network, with the mother-foal bond remaining the strongest lasting association during early life. These adult patterns emerge from inherited tendencies shaped by months and years of learning. This creates a major difficulty for domestication. A breeder would need to control which adults produce foals, while managing aggression, stress, and social compatibility. Pregnant mares would require safe conditions for birth. Young animals would need repeated handling during sensitive stages of development without disrupting nursing or normal growth. Calmer juveniles would have to survive into adulthood and reproduce successfully. The same selection would then continue through many generations. Teaching one youngster to accept a halter would demonstrate learning. A domesticated population would require reliable reproductive control and inherited behavioral change across an expanding group. One dangerous stallion, failed breeding season, or series of stressed pregnancies could weaken the program before those changes became established. Redirecting zebra development would therefore involve the whole life cycle, from early microbes and social learning to adult mate choice. Even after reaching full size, the animal still faces a limit shared by every active body. Muscles need recovery, the brain requires sleep, and a prey species must find those hours while danger remains possible. A mature zebra cannot remain alert and moving without pause. Its muscles need recovery, and the brain requires periods of sleep to maintain attention, learning, and physical control. Much of that rest begins while the animal is still standing. Equids possess a system called the stay apparatus. Tendons, ligaments, and the alignment of several leg joints help support body weight with less continuous effort from the large muscles. A ligament is a strong band of connective tissue, joining one bone to another. In the hind leg, the kneecap and nearby structures can help stabilize the joint. The lower joints are linked mechanically, allowing the limb to remain extended with reduced muscular work. The front legs also rely on tendons and ligaments that resist collapse while the animal relaxes. This system lowers the energy needed to stand. Some muscle activity remains necessary, and a zebra may shift its weight or rest one hind hoof lightly on the ground. Standing creates a useful compromise in open country. The animal can become drowsy while keeping its body close to a running position. A sound, scent, or sudden movement can bring the head upright quickly. The first escape stride begins faster than it would from the ground. Standing rest cannot provide every stage of sleep. During deeper sleep, the brain passes through changing patterns of electrical activity. One stage is called REM sleep, named for the rapid eye movements that often occur beneath closed eyelids. During REM sleep, much of the skeletal muscle tone is strongly reduced. This relaxation prevents the body from acting out many movements generated by the sleeping brain. For a large equid, reduced muscle tone makes standing unstable. Zebras therefore lie down to obtain this deeper form of sleep. An animal may fold its legs beneath the body and rest on its chest. This posture is called sternal lying because the sternum, or breastbone, remains close to the ground. A zebra can also stretch onto one side, allowing greater muscular relaxation. The side-lying position takes longer to leave if danger appears, so it usually occurs when the animal feels sufficiently secure. Sleep is divided into multiple bouts across the day and night. A wild zebra may doze briefly while standing, become active again, and later lie down for a deeper period. Weather and local danger can alter this pattern. Researchers should avoid assigning one universal daily sleep total to every wild zebra. Species, season, age, reproductive condition, group size, and habitat all influence rest. A mare with a young foal may interrupt sleep frequently. A tired animal inside a large group may gain more opportunities to lie down because other eyes remain open nearby. Rest within the herd is partly supported by shared vigilance. Some individuals may lie on their chests while others stand, graze, or raise their heads at intervals. No animal needs to remain a permanent guard. Awake and resting states overlap across the group, creating periods when danger can still be detected. A change in one standing animal's posture may wake those on the ground before the predator becomes visible. Lions make exposed resting sites risky. Tall grass can conceal an approach, while open ground provides better visibility. Insects may repeatedly interrupt sleep by biting around the eyes, ears, belly, or legs. Heat can delay lying down until the ground cools. Heavy rain, unfamiliar sounds, vehicle movement, and nearby livestock can also shorten rest periods. Captive zebras face a different set of conditions. A quiet enclosure without predators may permit longer lying periods. Strange neighbors, artificial lighting, hard flooring, or frequent human activity can create their own disturbance. Rolling sometimes occurs near resting periods, though it serves a different purpose. A zebra rolling in dust may twist its back against the ground, coat the hair with soil, and rise immediately afterward. The movement helps with coat maintenance and parasite control. Sleep involves a sustained reduction in responsiveness and a characteristic resting posture. The distinction matters because a zebra lying on the ground is not always asleep. Rest under an open sky remains a controlled surrender. The stay apparatus preserves a quicker route back into motion during light sleep. Deeper sleep requires the animal to fold its legs and give up its fastest escape position for a short time. This guarded, easily interrupted sleeper is the same animal people repeatedly try to fit with harnesses, saddles, stalls, and working schedules designed around domestic horses. Before anyone attempted to create a domestic population, captured zebras were valued for their appearance. Striped equids reached ancient courts and public spectacles through trade routes connecting Africa with the Mediterranean world. Centuries later, European rulers and wealthy collectors placed live zebras in royal menageries, private estates, and early zoological collections. During the 18th and 19th centuries, possessing one demonstrated access to distant lands and expensive transport. The animal often arrived as a curiosity, rather than the beginning of a breeding program. Some owners and trainers still tested what an individual zebra could learn. With patient handling, selected animals accepted halters, harnesses, and riders. Historical photographs show zebras pulling small carriages or standing beneath saddles. These successes were genuine examples of animal learning. A zebra can connect a command with a reward, become familiar with particular people, and repeat a practice route. The clearest surviving image comes from Walter Rothschild. a British zoologist and member of the wealthy Rothschild family. During the late 19th century, he maintained a large private animal collection at Tring, northwest of London. He became famous for driving a carriage harnessed to several zebras through the streets of Britain. The team wore bridles and worked together closely enough to pull the vehicle in public. The displays showed that carefully selected zebras could perform a controlled task. It did not create a population whose calm behavior reliably passed from parents to offspring. Rothschild's animals still required skilled handling. Their descendants did not spread into farms, armies, mines, and transport networks in the way domestic horses and donkeys already had. Human experiments also produced zebroids, hybrids born from a zebra and another equid. A cross between a zebra and a horse is often called a zorse. A zebra crossed with a donkey may be called a zonkey or zedonk. These animals can inherit stripes across part of the body, while carrying the shape, coat color, or size of the other parent. Their existence shows that the species remain biologically close enough for fertilization and development to occur. Most zebroids are infertile. The problem becomes visible during meiosis, the special form of cell division that produces sperm or eggs. Chromosomes normally pair with matching partners before being divided into reproductive cells. A horse has 64 chromosomes, while zebra species carry much lower and differing numbers. Their chromosomes also contain rearranged sections. Inside a hybrid, those mismatched structures struggle to form orderly pairs. The resulting sperm or eggs often receive incomplete or unbalanced genetic material, preventing normal reproduction. Hybrid breeding therefore offered little help in establishing a self-sustaining domestic lineage. The larger obstacle remained the scale of domestication itself. A trained animal represents one lifetime. A stable domestic population requires hundreds or thousands of births under controlled conditions. Breeders would need manageable stallions and mares that tolerated capture, restraint, unfamiliar enclosures, veterinary care, and close contact with humans. Those adults would have to mate reliably. Pregnancies would need to continue despite confinement and social disruption. Foals would require safe handling during early development, followed by careful selection over many generations. Zebra biology made each part more expensive and dangerous. Predator-shaped sensitivity encouraged rapid flight from uncertain threats. A blocked escape could produce biting, rearing, or powerful hind leg kicks. Removing individuals from established families could increase stress. Grevy's territorial system created different management problems from the stable families of plains and mountain zebras. Disease exposure, access to water, fencing, and the need for large grazing areas added further costs. Human societies also possessed easier alternatives. Domestic horses already carried riders and pulled vehicles. Donkeys handled dry climates and rough paths while surviving on coarse forage. People had centuries of equipment, breeding knowledge, and working routines built around both animals. A new zebra program would have needed to outperform those established systems while absorbing generations of risk. Historical trainers repeatedly reached the first stage. They demonstrated learning, individual tolerance, and limited usefulness. The reproductive staircase never followed. Humans did not leave zebras unchanged, however. Hunting removed entire populations. Fences divided migration routes, and one striped form disappeared completely before science understood how closely it was related to the animal still alive. The lost animal was called the quagga. Its head and neck carried clear dark stripes, much like a plains zebra. Across the shoulders, the markings began to widen and fade. Farther back, the body became brown, with only faint bands or no visible striping across the hindquarters and legs. From a distance, a quagga could appear like a zebra in front and a chestnut horse behind. It lived in the grasslands and dry interior of southern Africa, especially across areas that are now part of South Africa. Modern genetic and anatomical work places the quagga within the plains zebra lineage. Most researchers describe it as an extinct southern subspecies or regional ecotype. An ecotype is a population shaped by the particular conditions of its local environment. Its unusual coat probably developed gradually within that southern population as stripe width, color, and coverage changed across generations. European settlement placed quaggas under growing pressure during the 18th and 19th centuries. Farmers and commercial hunters killed them for meat and hides. Their flesh could feed laborers or be dried for later use. Hides entered local trade and were sometimes cut into sacks. Settlers also viewed wild grazing animals as competitors for domestic sheep, cattle, and horses. Removing quaggas appeared to leave more grass for livestock. Firearms, mounted hunting, and expanding farms made that removal faster than the population could replace its losses. The name added confusion. In parts of southern Africa, the word quagga was sometimes applied loosely to several striped equids. A written report mentioning quaggas might refer to the distinctive southern population, or to plains zebras more generally. This uncertainty delayed recognition that the true quagga was disappearing. By the time naturalists understood the difference clearly, no protected wild population remained. The last known quaggas in the wild vanished by the late 1870s. A few individuals survived in European collections. Only 2 living quaggas are known to have been photographed. Those images preserve an animal standing within an enclosure, its fading stripes visible in shades of grey. The final captive individual was a mare kept at the Artis Zoo in Amsterdam. She died on August 12, 1883. Her death was recorded as the loss of one zoo animal. The full meaning became clear only after people realized no others remained anywhere. A century later, preserved tissue from museum specimens gave the quagga a second scientific importance. In 1984, researchers successfully recovered and analyzed DNA from dried quagga tissue. DNA is the molecule carrying inherited biological instructions. This became the first successful genetic analysis of material from an extinct animal. The work helped establish the field now called ancient DNA research, which studies genetic material surviving in bones, teeth, hair, skin, and other preserved remains. The results showed that the quagga was closely related to living plains zebras. Later genetic studies strengthened that conclusion. Its disappearance had removed a regional branch of a living species, rather than an entirely separate kind of equid. That distinction does not reduce the loss. The southern population carried its own combination of genes, behavior, and ecological experience. its members had learned where to find seasonal water and how to move through landscapes that were later transformed by farms and fences. A modern effort called the Quagga Project began in South Africa during the 1980s. Breeders select plains zebras with reduced striping across the hindquarters and pair them with others showing similar traits. After several generations, some descendants display brown rear bodies and concentrated stripes toward the front. Their appearance can resemble historical quaggas surprisingly closely. Selective breeding can recover visible traits that still exist within the wider plain zebra population. It cannot restore the exact animals that vanished. The original quagga genome contained more than coat pattern alone. Its complete genetic variation, learned movement routes, social history, and relationship with the old grassland ecosystem disappeared with the population. A similar-looking coat creates a living reminder rather than a biological return. Humans never converted zebras into a widespread domestic animal. Human pressure still proved capable of removing one entire form from the earth. That absence changes the purpose of studying the survivors. Their stripes now help researchers count individuals, estimate populations, and discover whether separated groups still have enough space to meet and move. The living zebra species now survive at very different scales. Plain zebras remain the most numerous and widespread, though many populations have declined where grasslands are fenced, converted, or heavily used by livestock. Mountain zebras were once reduced severely by hunting and habitat loss. Protected areas and managed breeding help some populations recover, especially the Cape Mountain zebra in South Africa, yet the species remains vulnerable. Grevy's zebra persists in far smaller numbers. During the 1970s, its population was often estimated at roughly 15,000 animals across parts of eastern Africa. Only a few thousand remain today, concentrated mainly in Kenya, with a smaller population in Ethiopia. Some conservation assessments estimate fewer than 2,000 mature individuals. Counts that include young animals produce somewhat higher totals, though every estimate carries uncertainty, because dry country zebras may be spread across thousands of square kilometers. Researchers cannot simply stand at one waterhole and count every animal. Some individuals arrive after the survey ends. Others remain in distant grazing areas or cross the same road more than once. The Great Gravy's Rally was designed to solve part of this problem. Large surveys were conducted in 2016 and 2018 across broad areas of Kenya. Volunteers, conservation workers, and local communities photographed Grevy's zebras from vehicles and observation points. Each usable image recorded a striped body, along with its place and time. Many photographers covered neighboring regions, creating overlapping records in which the same animal might appear more than once. Software then compared the stripe patterns. A clear side view can be treated much like a fingerprint. The program isolates the body, follows dark and pale bands across the shoulder and flank, and searches the database for a likely match. Researchers review uncertain cases before deciding whether two photographs show one zebra or separate individuals. These repeated sightings support a method called capture-recapture estimation. The first survey creates a set of identified animals. A later survey records how many of those known individuals appear again. When a large share is photographed twice, the total population is probably closer to the number already recorded. When only a small share returns in the second sample, many unseen animals are likely present beyond the photographs. Statistical models can also account for location, survey effort, and the chance that some zebras are easier to photograph than others. Camera traps extend this work into places where people cannot watch continuously. These motion-triggered cameras may collect millions of photographs, including empty frames, livestock, vegetation moving in wind, and animals too distant for identification. A research pipeline reported in 2024 processed 8.9 million images from 70 cameras. Automated filtering reduced that enormous collection to 685 usable encounters, involving 173 identified Grevy's zebras. Only a few hundred targeted human comparison decisions were needed to settle the most uncertain matches. Newer systems are also being tested for photographs taken from changing angles. Three-dimensional fitting places the visible coat onto a digital model of the animal's body. Metric learning is a form of artificial intelligence trained to place matching individuals close together within a mathematical comparison space. The program learns which visual differences matter for identity and which result from lighting, posture, distance, or camera angle. A reliable match can reveal far more than a head count. Repeated photographs show which females return with new foals, which young animals disappear, and which adults move between protected areas. Those records can be compared with rainfall, grazing quality, water access, disease outbreaks, and livestock density. They may reveal that a road or fence has severed a movement corridor. They can show that one water point attracts many animals, while also increasing competition and infection risk. Population size remains the first measurement in a much larger task. Protection depends on understanding why births succeed, where deaths occur, and whether animals can still reach essential resources during drought. The coat pattern that may once have reduced successful fly landings now allows humans to recognize a single zebra months or years later. Every confirmed match adds one life to a larger map. That map brings the opening problem into a different form. The urgent task has become preserving enough connected land, water, and social space for each species to continue living according to the biology that made it a zebra. Place a domestic horse beside a wild zebra, and the shared ancestry remains easy to see. Both stand on one enlarged toe, grind grass with high-crowned teeth, and carry powerful muscles above long, lightweight lower legs. Their paths separated through different environments and different relationships with people. Across African grasslands, predator pressure rewarded rapid responses to uncertain danger. A distant shape or sudden movement could justify immediate flight, because hesitation near a lion carried an enormous cost. That sensitivity worked together with a body designed to accelerate, turn, and create distance. Restraint removed the animal's safest response. A fence, rope, stall, or handler could block escape and leave biting, striking, rearing, or kicking as the available defense. The same reactions that complicated human control helped generations of wild zebras survive. Controlled breeding would have required much more than calming a few individuals. People needed stallions and mares that tolerated confinement, unfamiliar surroundings, close handling, and repeated human contact while remaining healthy enough to reproduce. Births had to succeed. Foals needed to inherit useful behavioral tendencies, then survive long enough to produce another generation. Plains and mountain zebras carried stable family expectations, while gravy zebras followed looser associations shaped by territories and water. Captive management had to accommodate those social systems or repeatedly work against them. Domestic horses followed a rare historical route. A particular population from the western Eurasian steppe entered a long breeding relationship with humans. Manageable horses increased travel and transport, which made further breeding more valuable. Each useful generation improved the conditions for producing the next. The expanding lineage spread across Eurasia from roughly 2200 before the Common Era and gradually displaced many earlier horse populations. No equivalent process became self-sustaining among zebras. No combination of opportunity, lasting incentive, controlled reproduction, and inherited tractability produced a stable domestic zebra population. That outcome was historically unlikely, rather than biologically impossible in every conceivable timeline. Different circumstances maintained over many centuries might have created a different result. Human societies already possessed horses and donkeys by the time large-scale zebra breeding could have offered similar benefits. Those domestic animals came with established equipment, trained handlers, known breeding methods, and working populations large enough to replace losses. Persisting with zebras promised greater danger and expense, while offering few abilities unavailable elsewhere. The absence of domestication reveals nothing inferior, unintelligent, or evolutionarily primitive about the animal. Zebra intelligence developed around remembering routes, reading companions, recognizing danger, and adjusting movement to changing resources. Its digestive system processes large amounts of coarse vegetation through microbial fermentation in the hindgut. Its need for water connects grazing areas with rivers, springs, and temporary pans. Gravy zebras endure longer dry intervals, while nursing mares return more often because milk carries water into the growing foal. The striped coat also belongs to this ecological history. Evidence strongly supports reduced successful landings by biting flies, although the precise visual mechanism remains under study. Optical flow, edge contrast, polarization, and the sampling structure of compound eyes may each contribute. The pattern changes the fly's final approach while remaining visible to larger animals across the grassland. Migration carries similar uncertainty. Experienced animals appear to combine remembered routes with rainfall, vegetation growth, water access, and the movements of nearby zebras. A journey can pause when grass develops slowly, or accelerate after storms awaken distant grazing grounds. GPS collars reveal those decisions as lines crossing hundreds of kilometers. Removed fences have allowed some routes to return after decades of blockage. Photographs now provide another form of continuity. Distinctive stripes let researchers recognize individuals, estimate populations, record new foals, and detect movement between protected areas. The same code produced before birth becomes a tool for preserving the adult animal's future. Conservation, therefore, depends on maintaining the relationships that shape the zebra. Corridors must remain open between food and water. Family groups need enough space to stay connected. Dry season refuges must continue supporting animals when temporary grasslands disappear. The resemblance to a horse no longer leaves the zebra looking unfinished. It makes millions of years of divergence visible in the nervous system, the social group, and every route across the land. As evening settles, hooves continue striking dry ground. Grass passes between the incisors and beneath the grinding cheek teeth. Ears turn toward distant sounds while mares remain close to their foals. The family advances toward water, carrying its stripes through a landscape that still holds enough distance, enough grazing, and other zebras moving beside it.